Hey everybody, I am back again with another video about unofficial games, all thanks to your fantastic recommendations in the comments of my previous ones. I'm talking about fan-made standalone games, mods, total conversions, but in an attempt to stay on the right side of the powers that be, I'll be broadly lumping everything together as fan projects, with the more accurate, specific details on screen. These are all passion projects and represent massive efforts that usually are done without any financial incentive. And honestly, they can be just as good and even sometimes better than the official releases. The aim with this video is to both shine a light on some under-the-radar gems, but also touch on some fan favorites too. But keep in mind, these games might be really popular in certain niches, but not so much to the general gaming public. So if you're into retro games like myself, you're in the right place. Just a reminder, there's going to be no direct links here provided, so be mindful of where you click when you're searching for these games online. With all that out of the way, let's just get right into these amazing unofficial games. First up is The Legend of Zelda: The Missing Link, a Zelda fan project by K.Zemanuar. It aims to bridge the narrative gap between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and it offers a completely new, albeit short, adventure built within the Ocarina of Time engine. It also features a slightly darker, more atmospheric tone with unsettling music that provides the perfect little segue into the more sinister vibes of Majora's Mask. So if you're a fan of Zelda on the N64, I think you'd probably enjoy this one as a quick standalone treat. Next is Sonic and the Fallen Star, a Sonic the Hedgehog fan game by Team Stardrop, and it's a full-ass new Sonic game. 9 completely new zones, amazing original art, and a shockingly excellent soundtrack. As things go for fan games, this is one that can easily stand right next to the official releases. The production values here, especially the detailed stages and the expressive character sprites, and even the cutscenes, are just top-tier work. The amount of content here and the quality of it makes it stand out in a sea of lesser Sonic fan projects. So if you want another great Sonic game and haven't given this one a shot yet, you're missing out. Then we have Mother Cognitive Dissonance, a fan-made Earthbound RPG that tells the backstory of Geeg and his transformation into Gigas, connecting Earthbound Beginnings and Earthbound. It's got its own story, exploring a part of the Mother universe that we haven't seen before, and the party is pretty wild here, with familiar enemies and even Mr. Saturn. And the fact that you can travel to different planets and there are multiple endings depending on what you do is just a really cool touch. So if you're a die-hard Earthbound fan, especially if you're into fanon, you'll probably dig this. Then we have Streets of Rage Remake, which is a Streets of Rage fan game by Bomberman. It's an incredibly polished remake of the Genesis Streets of Rage trilogy for PC, and it's awesome because it doesn't really just recreate the original 3 games, it throws in a ton of new stuff, like extra characters, enemies, levels, and game modes. Plus it's got a remixed soundtrack, and they even put some of the stuff that was cut from the original games back in, like the motorcycle stages from Streets of Rage 3. So if you're an SOR fan, or just like beat 'em up games, you'll probably love this. It's easily one of the best made fan games using the open bore engine. Moving on to Final Fantasy Renaissance, a Final Fantasy remake by Renaissance Games. What's cool about this one is that it's both a straight-up recreation of the original and a Renaissance mode, with 10 brand new classes and tons of tweaks to make everything feel totally plussed up. Like for example, they added nice quality of life stuff like showing which items you can equip and auto-targeting. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, especially the first games on the NES, you'd really get a kick out of this one. Banjo-Kazooie Jiggies of Time is a Banjo-Kazooie fan project by the prolific Mark Kirko, and I'm sure I'll be talking about more stuff from him in the future of this series. But this one's a full game that mixes Banjo-Kazooie with the Ocarina of Time. It turns Banjo-Kazooie's world into Ocarina of Time locations, with Zelda-themed looks for everyone and everything. It also adds a bunch of gameplay tweaks, remixed music from the Zelda games, and new challenges that use Banjo and Kazooie's moves in cool Hyrulean ways. If you're a fan of either Banjo-Kazooie or Ocarina of Time, or just like 3D platformers, this one's for you. Man No Constancy is a really popular Mega Man 2 fan project by Ica. It totally overhauls Mega Man 2 for the NES, changing practically everything about it. It's got a whole new soundtrack, completely redesigned levels, and new sprites, so it feels totally different than Mega Man 2. The Robot Masters may look familiar here, but their themes and how they act and what their weapons do are totally different. And it's even tougher than ever, so if you're a Mega Man 2 pro and are looking for a real challenge, or if you just like new takes on beloved classics, you should check this one out. Sonic MegaMix is a Sonic the Hedgehog fan project that is a heavily modified version of the original Sonic the Hedgehog with Sega CD enhancements. It's a total reimagining of the original Sonic, with new playable characters like Shadow and added moves like the Spin Dash and Air Dash and completely redesigned levels. So if you've already checked out Sonic and the Fallen Star and need another fix of the blue blur, or just want a game with more of a feel for the classic style Genesis games, check this one out. Golden Axe Returns is a Golden Axe fan game by Z Vitor. It's a fan-made sequel built in the OpenBore engine, set between Golden Axe 3 and Revenge of Death Adder. It's cool because it builds on the classic Golden Axe gameplay by adding cool new features like throwable weapons and special attacks. It also boasts a huge roster of characters from across the Golden Axe series, remixed music, and 4-player widescreen co-op. So this is another one that if you love Genesis-era beat-em-ups, you'll probably love this. Waluigi's Taco Stand is another fan project from K's Emanuar, and in this one you play as Waluigi, who has to run a taco stand to pay his rent after he gambles all of his and Wario's money away. It's actually inspired by a fanfic that is over 500 pages long, but don't worry, you don't need to engage with any of that. It's just a silly game where you take taco orders and then have to go run around grabbing ingredients to make those tacos. It's a rare chance to play as Waluigi, and the whole taco stand thing just oddly fits his whole weird vibe. So if you want an offbeat take on Mario 64, you'd get a kick out of this. Next up is Super Metroid Ascent, a Super Metroid fan project from Bnox50. It's a total redesign focused on exploring and solving puzzles. And it's awesome because it also looks and sounds incredible, with updated graphics, cool parallax effects, and a custom soundtrack. And the way that it's designed is that you can't go back to earlier areas in some cases, which is a pretty unique decision and sets it apart from a lot of other Metroid fan projects. So if you're a Super Metroid fan who's looking for a new challenge or just love exploring games, you'll probably dig this one. Just make sure you master the wall jump first. Power Bomberman is a Bomberman fan game that is really polished, but it's a straightforward take on the series. But the main thing here is that it's got online multiplayer and a bunch of different game modes. It's just loaded with tons of stuff, stages, abilities, power-ups, characters, all from the classic Bomberman games, but with tons of ways to customize. But ultimately boiled down, this is just a straightforward, simple take on classic Bomberman, just delivered in a really polished way. If you want a new online party game to play with a bunch of friends on Discord, you'll probably have a blast with this one. Abobo's Big Adventure is a classic Flash game, but I bet there's a ton of younger folks who have never even heard of it. It's an 8-bit parody game where you play as Abobo, the bruiser enemy from Double Dragon, who's trying to rescue his son, Aboboy, by going through levels that make fun of classic NES games. Yeah, the retro game member-berry humor is pretty tired now, but this game is one of the few things from that era of internet humor that I think is pretty solid still. The fact that each stage parodies a different NES game makes the gameplay really varied, and the fan service stuff kind of works here because it's done with such an understanding of what they're poking fun at. It's definitely dumb and over-the-top violent, but hey, it's a Newgrounds game. If you're into classic NES games, you'll probably have some fun with it. Then we have Super Surfing Pikachu DX, a simple Pokemon fan game by Cosmic Hierophant. It's inspired by the surfing minigame from Pokemon Yellow, but it takes that nostalgic Pokemon minigame and updates it with newer Pokemon, turning it into basically a side-scrolling shooter where you're dodging everything. This one's not huge or super ambitious, but I just think it's a really neat little oddity. So if you have a lot of nostalgia for that minigame and want to see a new, plussed-up take on it, you gotta check this one out for at least a minute. And finally, we've got Pokerogue, a browser-based Pokemon roguelike, and it's all about the battles here, no overworld exploring. It's cool how it uses roguelike mechanics in the Pokemon battle system. The way you build your team with points and how catching Pokemon makes them available for later runs all add a lot of strategy to it. So if you're a hardcore Pokemon battling fan, or just like roguelikes and want a quick game, you could probably just load this one up on whatever you're watching this video on. Alright, and that wraps up this collection of awesome unofficial games. I hope that you found something here that you're really excited to try out. There are a ton of talented creators out there making incredible things, so if you have any fan projects that you think I should check out in the future, make sure you leave those down in the comments. And if you like this video, please do all the YouTube-y stuff, like subscribing, sharing, liking, do all that stuff. I really do appreciate it so much. Also, I just want to say I have a new channel called C.A.Brown, where I'm uploading shorts and more experimental stuff. So if you want to see more underrated game spotlights, head over there. Those are also going to be available on my new TikTok page as well, linked in the description. And finally, I'd like to give a huge shout out to everybody who allowed me to use their gameplay in this video. Everybody that I reached out to was super generous, and it really saved me a ton of time. And yeah, thank you guys so much for allowing me to do that. But anyway, thanks for watching!